Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining the RISMedia webinar series. I'm Cleve Gaddis. I am a coach with Workman Success Systems. I'm also a team leader of a real estate sales team right here in North Atlanta. I'm a coach and I'm also a speaker, and I am delighted to host today's webinar. We have got some great panelists who have some very valuable information. So I invite you to pay very close attention, to take notes, stay on all the way through the end of the webinar, if you will, because we're going to have some great free giveaways and things like that for you at the end. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you want to ask questions, you should have a questions panel on your GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar panel. You should be able to post questions. I'll be happy to, if a question makes sense while we're talking to a panelist, I'll stop right then and there and I'll ask the question of the panelist to try to get you as much information as you want. If for some reason we skip past the question, don't worry about it. At the end, we'll answer some additional questions provided we have time, and I will make sure we get your questions answered the best we possibly can. If you have technical difficulties, also post any comments or issues you're having in the question section, and somebody from RISMedia will respond to you and hopefully take care of your situation. Debbie has just submitted a question, say, will a replay be sent out? She has to leave early for an appointment. I hope it's a listing appointment. Go get that listing, Debbie. But yes, we will, RISMedia will actually send you an email once the webinar is over, and I believe that email will include a link to the full video, so you'll be able to see the slides and hear all the audio that goes along with it. Let's recognize our sponsor. In fact, I'll tell you, when I don't moderate the webinars, I love to actually listen to the webinars because I always get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 great little nuggets of information that I can apply in my business, that I can use to do more business starting today, and that happens every single time. And I'll tell you, a lot of times when I listen to online training, somebody's trying to sell me something, or it's not really purely somebody trying to help me, and I always enjoy that these are really purely just to give you information with really no real ulterior motive, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that for you today. But the reality is that we have to, it sounds like, by the way, RISMedia, that we have a little bit of an echo. Mark says he's getting an echo, which is very disturbing, and we apologize for that, Mark. We're trying to do the best we can to make sure that from a technical standpoint, we're working as well as possible. But anyway, thank you so much to Moxieworks for sponsoring and making everything possible. And I'd like to recognize Georgia Perez, who is the VP of Business Development and in charge of Product Evangelism, who's on the call with us. She's been in the business, the real estate business, for 10 years as a licensed broker, and 25 plus years working in technology give her an unusual insight into the industry. Georgia, it was a pleasure talking to you as we prepared for the call, and I appreciate you being on with us today.
Well, I'm excited to be on, and I'm delighted also just to be able to learn from the people that are on the call too. I agree with you. We don't want to be here just pitching people on our stuff, and I love the theme today, even arming agents to land more listings, because that's all about what we're trying to do here at MoxiWorks as well.
Man, and you know what? It is the name of the game in today's world. Can we start out? Can you tell us just a little bit about Moxiworks? I, a couple of years ago, actually hosted a webinar, and I had your CEO on as a panelist, and I learned a little bit about what you do, but I really didn't understand exactly who Moxiworks is and what you do. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, Moxiworks originally launched, we were literally born out of the 3rd largest independent real estate company in the nation. So we used to be a tech company building technology for one very successful brand of brokerage. And in 2012, we became a completely separate company. But back then we had one product. It was called Touch CMA. Many people might know it. We now call it Moxie Present. But we've grown to a full suite of services over the years. But part of what we learned in so doing it, what makes us a little unique as a company is, every time we bring a brokerage brand on, we're going to, customize our products and services for them, bring on their branding, their agent roster, their MLS data. We're going to be having consumer records and all of that. And we realized that our brokerage clients were going to have to go out and do that every single time they wanted to pick any kind of technology to supply to their agents. And so we realized if we created an environment in which, for lack of a better way of referring to it, a plug-and-play type system where you could integrate all the tools and services that you have as a brokerage together, so you could create better workflows, so we could take some of the hard work out of onboarding products, because when you plug in some other provider, we can pass them your branding and your roster and your MLS data and everything they need, so you, the broker, don't have to kind of take that heavy lift up. The Moxie Cloud was born. And it includes a lot of great products, our CRM productivity system. We have broker, agent, office, and team websites. We have a spectacular new recruiting product called Moxie Talent. But really what we're trying to do is help the broker and the agent get more information around the people that they serve. So all of the things that plug into Moxieworks helps you be smarter about the people you're working with, so you can go out and arm agents to land more listings.
Love it, and that's what we need. And it seems like the agents, and I apologize, guys, the echo seems to be on my line. I wish there was something I could do about it at this point. But it sounds like agents who use your product are more productive. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, exactly. And Moxie Engage in particular, which is our productivity system, is literally a sales methodology and a CRM. So it has the marketing functionality, and we have brand new campaigns that are launching that are very exciting. But it really is coaching an agent all of the right things that they can do. And I know we're going to hear a lot more from both Kelly and Peter today that I'm really excited to hear about too. But, a lot of times, and as you mentioned, I've been actually a licensed real estate agent and managing broker for 11 years. So I have walked in the shoes of many of the people who might be listening in today. And sometimes human nature is to do the things that you already understand really well, or that you love to do. So you spend all of your focus and energy on doing a couple of things that you really enjoy. But if you could just add a few new tools into your arsenal, you'd be more successful. And so Moxie Engage really coaches an agent step by step on each of the things that they need to be doing to create more transactions for themselves and close more business. And it's customized for the brokerage as well. So agents do it using Moxie Engage, roughly 54% higher sales. Even Moxie Present yields more listings, partly because it's much more than a CMA. But that's just to say what our company's motto is we make brokerages more profitable. And, before people out there go, well, what about the agent? A brokerage cannot be more profitable if their agents are not more successful. So it begins and ends with making agents super successful.
What a unusual concept. The brokerages cannot be successful unless the agents themselves are successful. And I don't know about you, but 54% more productivity certainly gets my attention. Before we change gears and jump into Kelly, I want to read something, one of my favorite books in the world. And if you're on the webinar today and you've never read The Greatest Salesman in the World, make sure you do that. I wrote an article recently for RISMedia. In fact, it came out in this month's magazine. It's on page 76. And I talked about my favorite scroll in The Greatest Salesman in the World, and it fits perfectly into this whole lead generation and conversion discussion. This is from the scroll that is, "Today I will master my emotions," and it says, "No longer will I judge a man or woman on one meeting. No longer will I fail to call again tomorrow on he who meets me with hate today." Talk about an industry where we get met with some hate some days. "This day he will not buy gold chariots for a penny, yet tomorrow he would exchange his home for a tree. My knowledge of this secret will be my key to great wealth. Today I will master my emotions." And basically what it says is, what it's saying is, and I'm sure most of you understood it, is that we can't judge whether or not somebody's interested in doing business with us today by the way they react to us today. We can, however, continue to reach out to them and provide them things of value over time, and hopefully their opinion as to whether or not they want to do business with us will change over time. And as brokers, if we could just get our agents to understand that one message, it might just make all of the difference in the world. Without further ado, I'm going to move to our first panelist, Kelly Gesick. She's a digital innovator at Chase International in Reno, Nevada, award-winning graphic designer and photographer. She's dedicated to transforming how real estate associates engage with their clients and builds relationships through the thoughtful use of technology. Kelly, welcome.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
We appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and help educate all of us brokers who are trying to get our agents to be more productive moving forward. One of the things that we talked about in our initial conversation was that we need to have consistency in messaging on every platform. Talk to us a little bit about that. First of all, tell us what you think the problem is with the way agents do things today, if you will, and then what we need to do to fix that problem.
I think a lot of agents think about themselves and like, oh, I have this one great idea and I have this one great idea to go out and get a listing or to find more sellers or to connect with clients. And it's really, really important to have the same message or the same image that you're saying all the time, because no matter who you talk to or when you talk to them, they should have the same feeling every time.
That's interesting. So what are agents doing today that causes people not to have the same feeling every time? I mean, what does your typical agent do that is not leading people to sort of get a consistent message from them and think, oh my gosh, that's so and they can do X, Y, Z for me?
Well, they're either not presenting themselves on multiple mediums. Like they might run a print ad, but they're not doing anything on social. And
Okay.
I know that, some people don't think that social matters, but it does. And you can find out really quickly whether or not you have an opportunity to engage with a person online a lot faster than you can with a print ad. But you have to have the same message across both things. So if you run an ad for a property, but you say something totally different when you're posting to your business page, a client that sees you in both places might be confused about what it is you actually do or how you actually market your properties.
So interesting. So let's take one specific property and say that property featured a pool. So if an agent has a message that is live the vacation lifestyle even while you're at home, what you're saying, it sounds to me like, is if they're sending something out, an email to their database, or they're advertising in print media, or they're advertising on social media, or wherever, they should have the same exact message every time.
They don't have to have the same exact words, but they should be like, if you're going to market a property by talking about lifestyle and living like you're on vacation, which is a great example. Right. The advertising that you do online and on print should both communicate that message of live life like you're on vacation, and if you live in this house, you're going to feel that way.
Love it. Love it. Now, when you and I were talking on the phone, so number one, we've got to be consistent with our messaging. And if we're selling lifestyle on a listing, sell the lifestyle everywhere. I get that. Now, when I'm driving down the road, I happen to be from Atlanta, so I'm partial to Coca-Cola. And so when I look up at a billboard, I don't even have to really look at the billboard. I know they're advertising Coca-Cola. And you were talking with me about the importance of using the same graphics and photos and things like that so that people started to recognize when it's a Cleve Gaddis or when it's a Kelly Gesick ad that they're seeing. Talk to us about that, and what are some best practices for agents to use to make sure that they're being consistent with their imaging?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's a great example of talking about Coca-Cola. And you could use any of the really big brands and say the same thing. You can usually see them in a split second and you know which brand that is. And real estate agents should be approaching how they market properties and market themselves the same way. And I know in real estate, people usually use their headshots of themselves, which is great. And specifically at our brokerage, we have a very specific way of headshots being made so that they're always consistent and they look really, really professional. And it's about the personality of the person and not anything extra or distracting going on. It's the same thing that you should be doing with an image. So right now it's spring. Unfortunately, it's been snowing in our area lately, so you wouldn't necessarily want to do pictures of springtime flowers, but you might want to use the same image of wildflowers in the valley here across everything that you're doing for the spring, and obviously not something that's middle of summer, because it doesn't make sense for the time.
By the way, as somebody from Atlanta, Georgia, from the South, I think it's crazy that anybody would live somewhere where it snows in May. I'm just sorry. I think it's crazy. I'm sorry to say that. So, but that's interesting.
It doesn't always snow in May, but it's been a funny week.
I'm totally teasing with you. I love this. No, anyway. So one of the things that I think about it, I'm thinking from my own business. So it's not unusual for agents to have multiple websites. And I know some of the people who are listening might be thinking, hey, wait a minute, how does this arm our agents to get more listings? Because it's not really preparing them to get more listings, but that consistency in communication might make somebody think of them where they're selling in a specific country club community, for example, or in a specific area in Florida where our next panelist is from. And so we need to teach, I think, the agents to be very consistent in their marketing. So I have 5 different websites, and they're all designed to attract a different type of buyer. And if you went to one of those websites and then you went to another one and another one and another one, you would not think any of them were owned by the same agent. And that's really not very smart when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that might work slightly better for buyers because you can be very, very specific about totally different demographics of buyers. But if you're talking about getting listings, most agents know exactly what type of listing they want to get and what type of client they want to work with. And if they don't, they should know. And if you know that, then you should have the same image across the board so that no matter where that person is, what happens in their life, if they land on any of your websites, even if you have 10 of them, they should recognize it. They should be immediately able to say, oh, that's Jenny Johnson from Chase, or that's Sherry Chase from Chase, or whatever.
And it's the consistency. And my guess is that most of our agents don't even think about consistency because they don't really think about marketing the way, for example, Kelly, you would think about marketing. Tell me, what does your brokerage do to help your agents be more consistent? I know you have some stock images that maybe you pay for and you supply them to use. Tell me what you're doing as a brokerage to help the agents be more consistent in their messaging. Giving them the tools.
We have a library of stock images that they can use, and when we give them access to that, we do recommend that if they pick one, they use it very consistently across the board. We also have a library of stock videos of our area that we had made specifically for our agents to use, and so those showcase the lifestyle of different areas, and they can pick one and they can use it across everything to have that sort of same image and that same feel.
So one of the things we talked about, and thank you so much, that's such good information. In fact, I've been thinking of all the different things I can do differently in my business. But one of the things we talked about when you and I were preparing for this call was that you want your agents to establish themselves as experts in an area. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are you doing for your agents, or what are you teaching them to do that creates that, hey, I'm an expert in the so-and-so area among their prospects, the idea of that?
Yeah. So the way I usually describe it is if anyone meets you on the street, they should think of you as the spokesperson for whatever area you're specializing in. And so you're going to have to engage with what happens in that part of the community. You're going to have to talk to people that live in that part of the community, and you need to know what events are happening. And so we curate a list of events that happen in the greater area, but we also provide resources where they can see every type of event that's going on in every specific area, and they're able to curate that and send it out to their sphere to show that they know what's going on and they know exactly how to help people and get people engaged in their community.
Now, we're going to probably bring this up a couple of times, but I know a lot of brokers are listening going, hey, I provide all this stuff for my agents and I can't get them to use it. What do you do to get more agents to use the tools you're giving them?
Well, we specifically have a monthly action plan that we put together for them. That's basically an email and a printed list that tells them do exactly these 10 things every month. And they have all of the resources every time, and they respond really well to it. They don't really have to think. They already know, oh, okay, here it is.
Love it. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about the action plans and how you're helping people on a monthly basis a little bit later in the webinar. But let's talk about how you are helping your agents learn to have the right timing when it comes to communicating with people based on important events in their life. To me, that's genius when it comes to social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you connect with your sphere of influence on social media, you're going to have some really good insight into what's happening in those people's personal lives, which is going to tell you when big moments happen in their life that they may need a real estate agent for. So that could be things like they got married, kids grow up and are going away to college, they're having another child, they need a bigger house, things like that. And if you know to look for and recognize those things, then you know when to connect with those people. And you don't even have to talk about real estate, but if you're already always giving that same message of, I know about this community and I can help anyone with real estate, when you connect with them on those other key moments in their life, they will think of you.
Right. Interesting. And so do you have a specific process that you teach agents? Do you do training on this? I mean, how do you get them to do it?
Well, we don't necessarily have a specific process for social. I mean, we do encourage agents to go through like ninja selling, but then the way that we present that with social media is you know how to interact and engage and create opportunities to interact with people. You just need to be paying attention to them here too, because even if you don't talk to them directly, you're going to know what's happening in their life. So you're going to know when you need to connect with them.
Love it. It makes such good sense. And social media really, I guess, shouldn't be all about the agent. It should really be about the agent interacting with others on stuff that's important to them. And I know most agents think very highly of themselves, and they wouldn't be successful in real estate if they didn't. But that's probably something that's totally counter to the way they typically think. We talked about, Kelly, how agents message about themselves, their teams, and their listings, and it was almost like you were saying, hey, they're kind of focusing backwards. They're focusing on the wrong thing. So talk to us about what you think agents should be talking about when it comes to listings and themselves or their team.
Well, agents should listen more than they talk. You should know your client really well, and you should know the people that you're interacting with in your sphere in such a way that they want to tell you about them. You're already building a relationship with them, but if you give someone the opportunity to talk more than you talk, you're going to create more opportunities to engage with them in the moments that matter.
And so what do you do to get your agents to do that? I'm an agent, and I like to talk. So what advice would you give me?
I know, they all like to talk.
So what advice would you give me that would help me have some triggers that might make me make it more about my consumer or my potential consumer than me?
Ask about interests, ask about open-ended things that give a person the ability to tell you more than you would even think to ask.
Got it. One of the things that I thought about when you were saying, hey, agents talk, you were saying they talk too much about their listings, and that's not exactly what you said, but I had to think for just a minute and think, what does she mean by that? And I think that what you meant was you talk more just about the features of the listing, and you should be talking about the benefits of the listing, meaning if it has this, what is the benefit of that for the buyer? So if it's close to walking trails, those types of things. So what are some suggestions you have for the brokers who are on to teach their agents to be better at that?
So if you teach your agents to listen to clients, then what you need to teach your agents to do is how to change the way they're talking about listings so that it's specific to those buyers. So if you take a couple minutes and you talk to a potential client and you know that they're super interested in the outdoors, the best way to talk about a listing to that client is to talk about its access to the outdoors, its access to outdoor activities and things like that.
And I think I remember you talking about having a tool that you use that helps your agents market specific properties to specific interest groups. Did we talk about that?
Well, we talked about like presenting listings and how we can customize a presentation on a listing. So we do use Moxie Present, and our agents love it. And they have some really fantastic templates, but we do also encourage them to add specific messaging in those presentations that talks to the specific needs or likes of the client. And it's not very difficult. You can add an additional page where you put in those few little details or notes about access to ski resorts or access to outdoor activities or access to hikes or neighborhood trails or parks if they have kids, whatever makes the most sense for the specific client.
Love it, love it. And it really, when you think about it, if you make your messaging specific to the ideal buyer, it just has to make everything more effective. So if basically you like a certain type of music, Kelly, and I'm singing that type of music or playing that type of music, it's much easier for you and I to connect. And I don't think we do that enough when it comes to marketing our listings long term.
Absolutely.
Now,
yeah.
you talked a few minutes ago about your company creating action plans and then making changes to those action plans. And I think that you have a specific monthly program that you go through to help the agents in your brokerage know what they need to be messaging to whom and when. Talk to us about that.
So our CEO, Alan, and our Vice President of Marketing, Tyler, kind of champion this action plan concept the most, and they put the most work in every month to make sure that we have it ready to roll out. But like I said, it's like a list of 10 things that our agents should do every month. And sometimes it's sending out correspondence or an email or a presentation that has to do with market reports or area events or just cool places to check out in the area, ways to engage with their sphere, things like that. And then we adjust those every month based on what the consumer feedback is and what our agent's feedback is. So if some things hit better than others, we develop those further and we switch out things. So everything that we're doing is very consumer driven, but we have two consumers as a brokerage. We have agents and we have sellers and buyers. So both of those things matter when it comes to making tools and initiatives for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Brian Smith just wrote in a question saying, what was the name of what you use?
For our presentations, we use Moxie Present. For our action plan, it's literally something that we print out and hand deliver to them and tell them exactly, go to this tool and do this, go to this tool and do this, send this kind of email.
Interesting. Hey, Georgia, I want to loop you into the conversation for just a second. Yeah. What are some of the best practices you see with brokerages throughout the country systematizing certain things to help agents stay in front of potential seller clients? Just a couple little things that you see people using throughout the country.
Yeah, sure. And obviously some of our brokerages are using Moxie Engage, our productivity CRM, and that actually includes a sales methodology that's tailored and customized to the brokerage. So it is based on sphere-based selling, and you heard Kelly talk a lot about sphere-based selling here. And again, according to NAR, 70% of a successful agent's business typically does come from their sphere, repeat referral business, and yet we're also, consumed with leads, and leads are great, and we want to help agents be successful with them too. But so brokerages are typically doing a lot of, like Kelly saying, they have an action plan with 10 things, and not all of the 10 things are going to be tech, right? They're going to be tech can help remind your agent to do the things that technology can't do, like write a handwritten note, go break bread. You said it yourself, even when you gave your quote from the greatest salesman in the world. This is a relationship business. Kelly mentioned it too. They need to ask a lot of questions, and if you're a ninja, which Kelly mentioned Chase is as well, and I know even Michael Saunders is getting ready to do or is doing ninja training as well, you're really trying to ask people about themselves, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. How can you get yourself more in flow and be in relationship with people? Because ultimately, if all you ever do is say, hey, are you thinking of buying or selling real estate? Or do you know anybody that's thinking of buying or selling real estate? That is not going to build your relationship. So the successful brokerages we work with are really helping give their agents, step by step, some of the things that they can do, including arming them with tech, but also what can they do as a human being to stay in flow and be top of mind with their sphere.
Now, you mentioned that you have plans that are customized. I forget what you said for the brokerage. Does that mean that you help them create specific messaging unique to their brokerage in the way they're communicating with their database?
We can help them create specific messaging. More importantly, we help them create some of the flow and prompts to help an agent know what to do when, and then integrate the product or service that they may need to use to do that task. So lead the horse to water and then help them take a drink. All of those things are
analogy.
Good. Yay. But a lot of what Kelly mentioned are some of the key things too, like even just tailoring a presentation. Using Moxie Present, one of my very favorite features is simply being able to edit the remarks that are around a comp you've chosen, because if all you're doing is including the very same remarks that every agent pulling those same comps into a presentation for a seller, and it just includes the listing agent's remarks, but doesn't help say to that buyer or seller, I chose this comp for you because this is the impact it's going to have on the selling price of your home, or our strategy for listing it, or I chose this home for you, my buyer, because you're an outdoorsman and this one puts you a 2-minute walk to the state park around the corner and I really want to take you to see it. You know, how can we personalize what we're presenting to people so it resonates with them and is not just the same generic content we're sending to everybody else?
Well, it's amazing when you think about it, because I bet I have not tried to list my home with someone else, but I bet if I did, I would see the same exact tools being brought in by 2 or 3 of the agents I was interviewing, and it's probably that one who's unique that would stand out to me. We've got a quick question, and I think it is for Kelly. It's from Brian Carroll. With the action plans, are you tracking who is following through on those action plans and then measuring results?
We do. I mean, we're able to track who sends and does things that are specifically with technology. It's a lot harder to measure any of the items that are like send a note to 5 people in your sphere, obviously. That's more self-reported and a little bit less accurate. But when it's something like make a customized presentation about your area in Moxie and send it out to the people in your sphere that you know are interested in that area, we're able to measure and see that they did it, how many people they sent it to, what kind of interactions those are getting.
Love that, because accountability is the real key, and I think in today's world as brokers, we probably don't hold our people as accountable as we should. Kelly, thank you so very much. Your information was great. I've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to moving on to Peter McGarry. He's the Chief Business Development Officer with Michael Saunders and Company. He has 28 years worth of experience in real estate and is the recipient of the Leading Real Estate Companies of the World's Chairman's Service Award. Peter, welcome. We appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you. It's an honor. Can you hear me?
Let's talk. I can hear you perfectly. You sound great. Talk to us. When you and I first talked, as we were preparing for this webinar, we talked about the disruptors. We talked about intermediaries. We talked about CRM. Talk to us. Give us your thoughts on what's going on in the industry and kind of generally what we need to do as brokers to protect ourselves.
All right. Well, quick by way of a disclaimer, I'm going to sound like a shameless commercial, and okay. For Moxie, for Ninja, for a few other things, and I know that's sort of breaking ranks, but by way of another disclosure is that I have actually been in agent support for 30 years, and so I've been with Michael Saunders now it's been a fantastic 2.5 years, and I've learned so much about the difference in markets and the difference in approach. But the one thing I have learned is the whole secret to all of our success is marketing to a personal database. And we've sort of pivoted away from even the term sphere of influence simply because that's a little esoteric. So we now talk about personal databases. And as you know, Kelly and everyone was saying before, we're in the relationship business, and the only way that we are going to be able to insulate our folks from the disruptors and the intermediaries, basically everybody out there that's got venture capital money and they've got more than 2 commas coming in front of their amount of investment capital they've got. The only way we're going to safeguard our people and our business is by marketing directly to the personal databases and to the spheres. So CRM, client relationship management, or customer relationship management is the cornerstone. So and so just by way of going on about it for just a second, that
please do.
If you look at the National Association of Realtors, this last survey that came out in 2018, that there was a lot of really interesting data that was in there. And one of the points, of course, to Georgia's is that, you know, the business still continues to be personal referral. If you look at the number of sellers that are referred to the agents that come either by way of personal referral, past clients, or referred from a company, it's sellers, it's 68% buyers, 60%. It's any other ways, it's upwards of 70%. So the quality business comes out of the personal database. And the reason why we embrace at Michael Saunders and Company that we went all in on Moxie is because Moxie, and we're in the full suite. We've got Engage, we've got Present, we're all in. And the idea being that it gives us as a company the first time I've ever seen in my history the ability to create content, provide it to our agents, and then have our agents deliver that content into their personal spheres and their personal database. It's the first time we have ever been able to, as a company, uniformly educate our agents about the power of their database and the power of being able to go in and group their people by way of, A, B, C, D, A advocates, B fans, following all the various grading, and then being able to go in and group these people by way of, their hot prospect, a warm prospect, and then to communicate to them according to where they are in their lives. And to Kelly's point, educating our folks about watching Facebook for pleasure and pain. What's going on in their lives that's a good thing, what's going on in their lives that's maybe not so good. And don't reply online, reply offline with handwritten notes and with phone calls, and make the connection with these people that matters and puts us in alignment with their lives. And so these disruptors and these intermediaries, they're making their money based on the fact that the NAR study says that it takes the average general public between 9 months and 21 months to make a decision to buy or sell.
Right.
I mean, they're literally out there and they're saying, okay, I know why I need to move. They're sitting there and they're saying, I have in this market down here, they have a dream. They've decided they want to retire. They want to buy a second home. They're going to move to paradise where it's not snowing. And they can move down here, and we have leads that we did an analysis. This past year, we had leads that had been placed off of our website and accepted by our agents. 6 of them had been accepted over 9 years ago.
Whoa.
So we have people that come down here. So staying in touch is more than just a casual thought. We have people that come down here and they're literally just falling in love, and they make an inquiry, and they may go to crickets for years and years and years until that dream comes true, and then they act. And the trouble with these disruptors is that when they do, and this 9 to 21 months is a great average, but let's just play with it for a minute, that what they're saying is it takes 9 to 21 months for them to decide to take action, but then it takes 1 to 3 days for them to decide on a realtor. So they're quite literally, they're taking all this time and then they're making a flash decision in 1 to 3 days. So we have to be at the right place at the right time. And to use the ninja language, we have to be in flow with their lives. We have to be in rhythm. We have to be in the cadence of their life so that we're present when they do enter that 1 to 3 day window and they think, who should I call upon to help me with this great decision? And we're there.
So wait a minute. I want to back up. So it sounds to me like you're saying the disruptors, and in a lot of areas we have Open Door and OfferPad, and we have Knock, and we have Zillow, and we have a lot of people that are basically trying to get between us and our consumer. And by the way, I heard somebody say a month or two ago that there's this very, very specific reason why so many people want to disrupt the real estate business. And I've seen numbers in the 70 billions range and numbers all the way up to 87 billion, which evidently is the amount of commission paid in the real estate industry to the real estate industry in 2018. And so it almost sounds to me like you're saying you think that disruptors are just better at the timing of getting between us and our consumer.
I would totally agree with that. And I would also add to that, Cleve, and say that we are, they say that the value of the real estate transaction is upwards of 10% of the sales price. There are so many other points of sale that are taking place. And a lot of these people are looking to minimize the power of the real estate agent in the equation. They want to sell those names to the, insert name of the various companies that are out there that want access to these customers who we know are in the midst of entering the largest transaction. Cash is going to fly everywhere, and they want to get
Peter,
in.
And Peter, I don't want to interrupt, but I think what they really want is part of the $87 billion.
Totally.
I don't
and the
know,
funny thing
I
is
don't know that they really care about the consumer the way the traditional real estate agent does. And it's fascinating to me. You're the only person who's ever sort of put this all out where I could think about it. You're saying it's 9 to 20 months 9 to 21 months for the typical consumer to go from the knowing they want to do something to here's how I'm going to get it done, but it's only 1 to 3 days for them to take action. So I read the little excerpt from The Greatest Salesman in the World, and so it's easy for an agent to follow up with somebody who has that 9 months to 21 month time frame and to never follow up with them again, and then they're not in the right place at the right time during that 1 to 3 day period. That's a fascinating way to look at it.
Can I add?
Please.
I'm sorry.
Georgia, please.
I was just saying, NAR also says, well, we know statistically that the average consumer may have as many as 10 realtors in their own sphere. And so if they're going to make a decision in 1 to 3 days who to work with, you need to be sure that you've stayed in flow with that person so they remember you, because they just as easily might remember the other 9 who've done a better job at it. So this is one of the things we really do need to arm agents to do.
And
exactly.
Your goal is to be the last one to talk to them before they make the decision. And in order to do that, you just got to follow up regularly.
Well, and even to add to that, let's say that you may be the lucky one to be the last one to talk to them, but let's go down Kelly's path where you have managed to ask these people the forward questions: family, occupation, recreation, their dreams, and you are so aligned with what their wants and needs are that their relationship with you is tight enough that they really seek you out as the knowledge broker in the equation. And, I have surveyed so many sales associates, but the reality of it is if you say to the professional agent who was in the business during the most recent unpleasantness in 2008, that you say, okay, how did you survive the Great Recession? They're going to say 90 to 95% of them are going to say personal referrals, and they thrive. The ones that actually work their personal database actually thrived during that whole time. And so what we're looking to do and what we've been doing is, just to give you a sense of perspective, we launched Moxieworks in June of 2018. And at that time, we had 0 contacts that from the agents were out there marketing to their databases, but from a company perspective, it was inconsistent. We saw them doing it, we were happy, but we didn't really know how much. As of April 30th, we crossed nearly 17,000 neighborhood news touches go out each month by our agents, for our agents, to their database. And that's just a lot of brand touches each month, which are, of course, they're the agent's touch points. And our sales associates are embracing it simply because it's all about making sure that they're there with auto flow, which the auto flow is the systems that are going out and touching the agents. And then what we have to do is coach them towards the live flow, which is the personal contact, the handwritten notes, like Kelly says, recommending things. Go ahead.
Peter, let me interrupt. We've got a question from John Holly. His original question is, what percentage of the commission is the value of the sales price? I was a little confused, so I asked him to clarify. And he says you mentioned 10% of the sales price being related to the commission. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit lost. Is there some additional information you can provide for John on that topic?
Well, the only thing I could provide to John is the fact that what it's been stated is that in addition to the real estate commission, there's another minimum of 4%. So it's a total of 10%. And they're saying that this is things like new cars. It's things like, between household goods, between decoration, between everything. You could easily see 10% of the home's value changing hands. And so it's a great effort to try to get. As real estate professionals, we are the first person to know the name of that individual that's about to go into the transaction. We're at the tip of the spear of the largest action that's going to take place. That makes us very popular.
And maybe I'll ask a clarifying question too. Are we talking,
please.
Peter, when you talk about that 10% that John was inquiring about, are we talking about that golden moment that exists around every transaction, that when a home transfers ownership, there's a whole lot of other industries that will be engaged by a buyer or seller in that process that represent a larger cash outlay around the transaction? Is that what you think that was referring to?
The golden moment, yes. Thank you. That's well put. The golden moments. And I would say that it also, and to your point, Cleve, that these individuals that are trying to grab a piece of our action and cut in our commissions, I totally agree with that, because in the long run, most of them are looking to sell the leads back to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And a huge percentage of them, if you listen to any of the T3 or any of the statements that have gone on in the forums, that a lot of these intermediaries are actually looking to replace the real estate agent in the transaction, and the greatest thing we've got going for us is the transaction is infrequent and litigious. So I don't see any time soon where we're going to be replaced. So the sphere of the personal database is the target that we're after.
That's so true. And, you know, most people out there have been in real estate. They have a database, but they don't do anything with it. And if we just got our agents to religiously follow up with their database, what a difference it would be. As we had our call to prepare for the webinar, you talked about providing, and specifically sellers, with information of value. Talk to us about what your company is doing to make sure your agents are really connecting with people in a very deep way when they communicate with them.
Well, basically, the metaphor that I use is that when you sit in front of the seller, each one of our tools is like a musical instrument. And you need to be able to play a symphony in front of that seller that proves to them that you are the knowledge broker, the person of value that you want to have list their house. And so if you imagine for a minute that the agent is like the conductor, and the symphony that we're bringing to bear is we use Moxieworks as the stage, and we bring into bear the CMA product within Moxieworks. We also have a program called Trend Graphics, and what Trend Graphics does is supplies, it gives you all of the market trends in MLS right down to the subdivision level, because we all know that one side of the street can be one market, you know, it could be a seller's market, and the other side of the street be a buyer's market.
Certainly
so
can.
When someone says it certainly can, and it can depend on schooling, it can depend on anything. So we integrate Trend Graphics into our presentations, and we also have another product called Buy Side, which actually gives us the ability to present the seller with 3 AVMs. It shows them what the estimate is saying, what RPR is saying, what e-appraisals is saying in terms of those valuation models. And then that comprehensive data that we can turn around and say, this is what the true price of your property is, but look what the general public is viewing. And then, by the way, here is our buyer pool, our activity that's going on around properties similar to yours. Because really, when we're across that dining room table, or we're across the continent from these potential buyers or sellers, that we're looking to provide them with real-time data that they can look at and make an informed decision that ultimately Michael Saunders and company agents are the best ones to be helping them with this most important decision.
So I want to make sure everybody didn't miss that. You said across the continent, and when you and I were preparing for the call, we talked about you're sending these packages of information to people all around the world, because certainly people buy vacation homes and investment homes and things in your area. And then you got to step up your game in the way you communicate from a presentation standpoint when you're sending stuff around the world. So I want to make sure everybody gets that. But I also want you to talk a little bit more about how you talk to a seller about the buyer activity. I think that might have kind of gone over everybody's head real quickly. I was fascinated when you were telling me you can actually identify sort of your buyer pool that might be interested in the property they are offering. So talk to me about that.
Well, what happens is that, of course, the old adage, the company that has the most inventory has the most buyers, has always been a true statement. But really, how do you present that? How do you measure that? Well, right. We have this tool called Buy Side, and what Buy Side does is it takes all the buyer activity that we've got between showing appointments, between website activity, between all the buyer activity that we've got going on, and it presents that data per specifics that the agents put in. Like you put in a property address, and it'll automatically filter what the product, the property's location, the price based on the AVMs. And then it will say, these are the levels of buyer activities that are currently going on around that type of product. Now, it's not saying, here's Emmylou Gunch buyer, or here's the agent working with him. It says, these are the amount of searches that have gone on, and this is the amount of specific buyers activity that could be looking for your house right now.
That is huge.
And so it gives us the chance to flex the muscle. Huge. And it integrates into Moxie. So we can sit there, and when we go out into a CMA and we're sitting across from the seller, or as I said before, so many of our sellers are all over the world, and we communicate to them, and they can look at these links and they can look at these presentations, and they can actually see exactly what's going on at a given moment.
So interesting. Hey, Georgia, any other thoughts on what you see people doing throughout the industry to help agents put together better presentation, better marketing material, to help them communicate better with prospects? Anything you want to comment there?
Sure. Well, I loved a couple of the things that Peter talked about, because one of the things that's great about Moxie Present is it's a super flexible presentation product. We used to call it Touch CMA, as I mentioned at the top of the webinar, and we don't call it that anymore because while it is the #1 and it has been voted consistently the #1 CMA product in the nation, that's just one small thing that it does. It's really for any kind of communications you want to do, and you can do it digitally or in print. So to Peter's point, for their agents, they're often sending presentations to people who are not going to be sitting across from the copy table for them, and it allows them to incorporate a lot of different information, including even embedding things like a trend graphics report or a buy-side heat map. So it really lets them round out their, you can put video in it. So an agent who's communicating to a seller or a buyer who might be in, Timbuktu and is looking for properties in Florida to retire with can literally record a personal video and put it at the front of that presentation saying, Tom, here's some listings I've chosen for you and here's some market information. So it allows them to really tailor it and personalize it. And I think that comes back to some things Kelly said as well. It's like, we have to, we want to make things easy so agents can do it. They're very busy, they're self-employed. And when I say self-employed, they are living transaction to transaction, and that can be really overwhelming from time. It gets really busy. So if you make things too hard for them, it's hard to squeeze it into their very hectic days. So we've made the products and services easy. But what we need, and what you're hearing from both Kelly and Peter, is help them learn to personalize what they're sending out. If 10 consumers know you and everybody is sending the, it's the pumpkin spice latte newsletter, or it's time to hoe your gardens, or turn your clocks back, and one person tailors something they're sending to be about what they know about somebody because they've invested that time and energy in asking those forward questions and getting to know them, and they're personalizing their content to be specific to the market and the interests of that buyer, they're going to rise and shine above the other people. And so that's the thing that really successful brokerages are helping coach their agents on. Up your game, be personal, be tailored, and really address the consumer that you're trying to do business with. And if I might add one more thing, Kelly made a remark earlier about how, agents know, the listings they want to get. They know what they want. But so often we present ourselves as we are today, not where we want to be. And so everything that Peter and Kelly have been talking about is about upping your game and presenting yourself in the way that you want to be perceived at, and at the professional level, and with the content that's of interest to the buyers and sellers you want to be doing business with.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And I'm listening to you, Georgia, and I'm going right on, baby, right on. The issue is, so I owned a big brokerage from 2006 to 2009. I'll let you guys figure out what happened during those 3 years of my ownership. But so the reality is that it's hard to get agents to buy into it, even if everything's Georgia's saying, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to help your agents communicate. I want to know from Peter, how in the world do you get your agents to basically let you and your company drive some of the messaging directly to their database? So talk to us about it and be brutally honest about it, if you will, Peter.
Well, no problem at all. And I would tell you that as somewhat cliche as this sounds, it has to start with the values that the company has. And one of the things that this company that, Michael Saunders, she formed this business in 1976 and really has built it upon rigid value structure. And one of the values is integrity. And to the point, the elephant in the room is, okay, so the agents sit back and they say, why in the world would we allow our personal database to be handed over to the company and have them market to it? Well, the reality of it is that we start out in our independent contractors, as we're moving through the onboarding, we have a policy that states up front, as does Moxie, this personal database is theirs. We do not, and I want to kind of clarify what you said a minute ago, we are not marketing directly to the agent's database. The agent turns around and permissions certain pieces into that database. And the agent can, at any point, the agent can shut down the database. They can do whatever they want. And with Moxie, we're not actually uploading the database. We're mirroring the database with Moxie. And we do not see the individual's names. We're told Moxie nor Michael Saunders and company can actually see individuals within that database. We can only see the activity. We can see how much has been sent out. We can see open rates. We can see information that relates to specific targeted campaigns. However, it's quote unquote a blind database. And so, and certain agents are saying, of course, there's going to be those that are like, no way, I'm not going to do that. And that's fine. We are totally about the fact that one of our fundamental values is mutual profitability. If we are in it all of us are in this to make sure that our sales associates are making money, because when they make money, we're making money. And if they choose not to do that, that's just fine. But this company just has honestly has a great culture where we have a lot of sales associates that buy in. As I think I said before, we have 67% of our total active agents have activated their accounts, and we are getting a lot of, it's always soliciting the positive victories. I'm coming off of a leadership meeting earlier today where they were talking about the successes. And by the way, one of the big successes is using the program for price reductions, which is, of course, going to be the next big elephant in the room. Is everybody can get listings, but pricing them correctly to sell is one of the great challenges. And we're using this device, this system, to write price and adjust price.
So, and is it like an action plan that you're giving your agents to do that, or how does that work?
We have workflows within Moxie that are basically taking them through the process. But really, as much as anything, we're watching days on market, and our leadership team is careful about reaching out to the agent and talking to them to make sure that we're helping them with any pricing conversation. Our chief marketing officer actually goes out on pricing conversations with our sellers, oftentimes to help get things right priced and priced to sell. And I think that's going to be one of our next big challenges across the industry is, yeah, we can capture listings, but the secret is to get a listing that's going to sell.
Yeah, and as the market starts to balance, it's taking a little longer to sell listings. I know inventory in Atlanta is probably up almost 18% this time this year versus this time last year. So what a great thing to, hold your agent's hand and get into business with them and help them do the more difficult things. We call that making course corrections, and it's certainly something that needs to be done. Is it correct, Peter, that you are helping your agents market directly to about 17,000 people in their databases? I know that you're not taking their database, but you're helping push messages through your agents to about 17,000 people?
Yes. Each month, our agents are delivering 16,910 messages into their database, and that's through neighborhood news. And then with presentations, we have 7,800 presentations that have gone out since the beginning that have been sent and opened. So our agents are actively communicating, and it's on their behalf. It's branded as them, and we position it that Michael Saunders and Company they are Michael Saunders and Company, and we look for them. Anytime someone sees our brand, we want them to think of our agent.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Peter, great information. I have totally enjoyed having you on as a panelist. Kelly, I have appreciated you and your information as well. Hopefully everybody on today's webinar got some good information, at least one or two points that they can actually put into use in their brokerage business to help their agents be more successful. Georgia, thank you very much to you and Moxieworks. Anything you'd like to add, Georgia?
Well, I just want to thank Kelly and Peter as well. We love having both of their companies and them personally as our clients. It's a delight to work with them. And, Moxieworks continues to improve our products and services through interactions with fantastic brokerages like theirs, where the feedback we get from their agents and them helps us make our products and services better. They evolve continuously. So I so appreciate that they were willing to take some of their time today to be on this webinar with you. And thank you as well.
It is my pleasure to have been able to help you. We do have some free downloads for everybody who's attended today. You can go to workmansuccess.com right there on your screen. Arming agents, and it's interesting. I did not know, Georgia, you would be talking about the Ford dialogue, but we've got free giveaways. Number one is a simple system called the ABCs of lead conversion, which teaches agents how to categorize something as an A, somebody who's ready to buy or sell now and has an appointment, a B, somebody that's ready to buy or sell within the next 90 days, and it gives you a follow-up plan for that person, and then a C lead, somebody who is looking to buy in 90 days or sell in 90 days or longer, and then it gives you a follow-up plan for that type of prospect. And then we've also given an apology script, which is fantastic. Peter, if you have a lot of agents who are just sort of rekindling relationships with their database, it tells them exactly what to do and say when they make that call. You know, hey, I've forgotten about you for the last 3 years, but that's going to change moving forward in the future. And then there's the Ford script, Georgia, what you were talking about, that teaches people exactly how to go through family, occupation, recreation, and dreams to better connect with their clients. Thank you so much to everybody who attended today. I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, and you will be able to get a copy, if you've attended today, of this video, a link to this video via email sometime within an hour or two after the webinar is over. Thanks for calling, and I hope all of you have a great summer and a great 2019. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.